First up, we've got Vice Provost Maria Estorino on the Wilson Library Improvement Project. Thanks for being with us, Maria. It's good to see you as always.
Good morning, Katie and everyone. Thanks so much for having me. I will be sharing some slides, and so if you can just give me a second to pull that up, that would be great. Yeah, all right. So I appreciate you're the first group to hear from me about this since yesterday's announcement. I hope you saw the email that hit the inbox sharing some information about a construction project that will be taking place at Wilson Library. And my goal today is just to provide a little bit more information and context and to gather your questions or your feedback so that it could inform how we prepare for the impacts of this project on our campus. And so I want to start just by talking a little bit about Wilson Library. It's an icon, right? It's like one of the most recognizable landmarks that you associate with with the UNC after the bell tower and after the old well. It's Wilson Library, and it's a library. It's always been a library, but it's also a visitor destination in that it's such a historic and beautiful building that we draw a lot of folks who are there not necessarily to visit the library, but to visit the building itself. If you don't know what's in Wilson Library, it's home to our special collections, the North Carolina Digital Heritage Center. As you can see, there are a few other library departments, as well as the Center for Faculty Excellence. Also at Wilson Library are 60 library employees and about 50 library student workers. About 20 of those are graduate students, largely in the School of Information and Library Science. Center for Faculty Excellence has 11 employees in the building. And in the last fiscal year, we had, as you can see there, just over 54,000 visitors. Less than 10% of these visitors are there to do research with our collections. And that's not a bad thing because research with special collections is an intensive process, right? It's typically not a visit to get a book and take it home. It's typically sitting in the library, sometimes for days, sometimes for weeks. We have researchers who stay with us for months to use these collections. But of those researchers, more than half of them are not affiliated with UNC. So we attract a lot of researchers from outside our campus community. And about 26% of them come from outside of North Carolina. So we also attract users from other parts of the country and sometimes the world, right? We also have a lot of instruction that happens at the library. In the last academic year and the couple months that we've had of this one, it's been about 230 classes, and they're largely in the College of Arts and Sciences. I could talk a little bit more about that if anyone's interested in some of that data. So the majority of the building is for collections. The public spaces really take up a pretty small portion of the building. As a special collections library, the stacks are secure. So that what that means is that unlike in other libraries where you walk in and you wander around and you can pull things off the shelf yourself, the security and preservation concerns of special collections are such that the stacks are closed and we mediate access to the materials, right? And so really the parts of the building that the public most experiences are the original 1929 front part of the building and the wings that were added in 1952, which is where you see, for example, the North Carolina Collection Gallery and the research room that's on the opposite side of the building. But this slide just gives you a sense of just what are the kinds of materials that are housed in Wilson Library. So let's talk a little bit about this project. Back in 2008, the State Department of Insurance basically let us know that we couldn't do any construction because the building was not up to code, and particularly in the area of fire safety. And so a number of regulations were put in place to allow us to continue to operate the building. And we also made investments both through grants and also the support of the university and some other philanthropic support to add sprinklers largely in the stacks, largely where the collections are stored. More recently, we're very grateful to the state for allocating what is become a total of $31.1 million to allow us to do the upgrades that are needed for this building. So the project focuses on three things right now. You may be familiar when we talk about fire safety, things like fire alarms and extending sprinkler coverage. The most disruptive and the most costly part of the project is that we are creating 2 additional egress staircases and routes within the building to be able to reach those staircases to increase our capacity for the possibility of emergency egress. And those are going to be on the back side of the building. So achieving our goal is to basically comply, make the building, bring the building up to code. But really, programmatically, the benefit of this, other than obviously creating a safer environment, is to lift the building restrictions. I think of this project as the key that will unlock the future possibilities of Wilson Library. It hasn't been renovated since 1987, which is almost 40 years ago. And so we're really looking forward to if this code compliance is achieved and the building restrictions are lifted, that we might actually be able to think about what the future of Wilson Library might be, and make it even more of an attractive destination for our researchers as well as for our users. Our goal is also that even in the time between the construction on this project ending and the possibility of that future, it will make it easier to use the building. If you've ever tried to book something, for example, at Wilson, you know that we have really strict hours and things like that. And that's largely because of the regulations that we have in place, conditions under which we can and cannot have the building open. So it's our hope that even without kind of like a more programmatic renovation, that it will make the building just simply more available. So my key points today, and that were shared in the message that you received yesterday, are that Wilson Library will close for between 2 and 3 years. And this is the timeline. I want to just draw your attention to the asterisks and the text in red. This is a timeline today. As you might imagine with construction projects, we do anticipate that there might be changes to this timeline, but we thought it was really important to start to let people know about this project, even though impact will not be significant until next summer, because we really want folks to have the chance to plan ahead, especially our researchers who will not have access to our collections for starting in August of 2024. That's our current projection. What that means is that services and collections will close so that we can prepare to move them off-site. We're working with a consultant who is helping us both plan and manage the move, but also to locate the safe and secure facility that we need for this temporary relocation. The building itself, we anticipate will close to the public sometime in spring of 2025. So what that means is that there will be a time where the building will remain open, Farrington Reading Room, Pleasant, the exhibit galleries may or may not be open, but that basically the things that people need to use that are not like collections related would still be available through at least spring of 2025. So we're still open according to this timeline, but you'll take note of the very last item on this. And I'll just say, well, we anticipate reoccupancy starting in 2027. You'll notice the very last line, and I'm going to go back to that in a minute. I just kind of want to draw attention to what we anticipate are going to be some of the impacts, right? So the first one, obviously, is that our special collections will be offsite, and they're going to be unavailable for research or teaching. We did a lot of teaching and research support with our digital collections during the pandemic. The difference here is that we had access to the collections during the closure. This time we won't. We're also going to be limited in our ability to accept new materials into the special collections. Again, with the building closed, we won't be able to host meetings, programs, media, etc. And approximately 250 seats that we use for student study and for library instruction will be unavailable. There'll be fewer student jobs. As you saw, we employ about 50 employees just in that building. And there will be interim locations for both the music library and the Center for Faculty Excellence. So the timing is interesting. In a way, it's very fortuitous because in 2029, just 6 years from now, we will be celebrating the centennial of Wilson Library. And what a great way to do that, right? With a building that really is ripe and ready for some celebration and for some future consideration, right? This is a photo of the building in process of being built. And you can see that that original building was really just that front part of what the building is today. I want to just take a chance to mention that this is just one piece in the library's longer term space strategy. We are really working on really thinking about all the spaces that the library stewards and is responsible for to really optimize them for what 21st century research, learning, creativity really need and require today. And so this is, you'll probably be, my hope is that you'll be hearing about more opportunities that we're going to have to improve upon all of our spaces. Part of this strategy will also really lean into offsite options, which we already have. We have about 1.5 million items offsite in a facility that we share with Duke. And so we're going to have, that's part of how we're thinking. You don't know it, but we have an offsite location, an offsite library. And also just that there might be some potential impacts throughout all these projects as they start to come online for collection, housing, and study space. But we're going to do our very best to keep managing them and keep communicating with everyone about what those impacts are. I think that's it. I want to just draw your attention to both this website and also this email address that we set up for questions about this project and how it might affect you and your work or your department. We're already receiving inquiries to that email, so I really just want to encourage you to refer both to the website and to use the email for any questions or concerns that you might have. And I think with that, I'm going to stop sharing and see if there are any questions or feedback at this point. Arlene, I'm reading your question about what kind of sprinklers. So we do use water sprinklers, which is fairly common in libraries, even special collections, because it's a more affordable option. And frankly, wet materials are salvageable, burnt materials are not. And so it is, we're not looking at anything other than water pipes. I'm not really sure. I know that for my previous institution, we had dry pipes, which meant that there was no water sitting in the pipes. It will be released when the sprinklers went off. So I'll be honest, I'm not sure what we're doing on that one. I'd be happy to find out a little bit more. But it's fairly common practice. And as far as the furniture and the fixtures, yes, things will be stored. There's part of the reason why we have to close a building is because it's a complex project and the construction is going to require a lot of equipment, both outside the building and inside the building. And we need to ensure that our materials and our people are out of the way and are safe while these projects are going on. So yes, we're kind of sort of emptying the building. It's going to be interesting. Thanks for the question, Arlene.
I was also wondering, will they come back? Because I mean, a lot of those are beautiful antiques and be a shame because
sure,
in the 1980s or maybe 70s, they were renovating Memorial Hall, the theater, and they started to throw out Thomas Day chairs because the people doing the work didn't realize they were Thomas Day chairs. And ever since then, I've been a little anxious about renovation.
Sure. Yeah. Well, we always strive to achieve a balance, right, between this kind of history that we carry forward, but also the modern needs of a library and our users today. And so I honestly don't anticipate that the building will reopen with much in terms of furnishings changed, but I also want to invite you to think about what the possibilities are of updating furniture in terms of, furniture that was comfortable or appropriate in 1929 or even in 1952 may not be so today. And so we're always striving. One of our goals with anything that we do at Wilson is to preserve its historic intentions and its historic beauty and its historic nature. So that's something that we're always going to hold front and center in whatever we do.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Maria? I know I'll speak to my time as a student in the history department. I spent a lot of time in the special collections. So it holds a special place in my heart. So we sad to see it close, but great to see it back up and running in a ship-shape fashion. So
Thank you, Katie. Yeah, one of the things I just want to say this, that, one of our goals is, even though the collections might be off-site, we're really looking forward to keeping the work of the special collections alive on our campus. There's a lot of programming that we can do and projects that we anticipate continuing to carry forward. So we might be offsite, but we don't intend to go quiet. So again, I'll just invite you to send any email questions to that address that I shared. It's in the message that will hit inboxes. And thank you again for the chance to update you all on this project.
Of course. And of course, a plug for all of the digitization work your team has done over the past several years. So that's obviously available for a lot of the things that'll be closed off during that.
Yeah, thank you, Katie, for mentioning that. Yeah, it's about 3 million items we have online. And it's still barely scratching the surface of everything that's in those collections, but it's definitely, we've been doing it since 1996. It's been a long investment that we've had, and it pays off in moments like this. So thanks.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Maria. Always great to have you with us.